People love superheroes. They swoop out of the sky and save the day. People love that cozy feeling that superheroes give them. I can't stop. I can't stop. I can't stop. I can't stop. Robin!
My deepest condolences to Robin's family. She just stepped in the middle of the street.
Soups lose hundreds of people each year to collateral damage. It's fucking diabolical.
They're all like that?
Yeah. Pardon my French, fuck those fuckers. I got the boys together.
To do what?
Spank the bastards for Robin.
It's suicide to go after the Soups.
We can use help stuffing them.
Excuse me. I'm sorry, are you okay?
I'm fine. I'm just having a bad day. It's a work thing. I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
She could help us.
She's a soup, just like the rest of them.
You're wrong about her.
Just remember who your friends and who your enemies are.
They just declared war.
Well.
It's
Not what it looks like. I thought we had an understanding.
I know you're trying to be tough, but
We're superheroes.
who are you?
In these crazy times, the world just needs a hero to help cut through all the noise.
Well, now you have two.
Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another episode of Your Heroes of Noise. I am 1/3 of this amazing trio today. My name is Steve.
Welcome to episode 79. This is a special one. First of all, my name is Dan, so welcome to the show. But today, guys, I thought I would call this show, what do you think about this name? I'm just throwing it out there. What do you think? The Noise Talks the Boys for this episode.
That's very slick.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. We have a guest with us today, and I'm very happy because whenever he comes back, it's always like just having a part of the family with us. Steve, do you mind if I do the introduction?
Handle it.
Ladies and gentlemen, back once again from across the pond, our buddy Johnny Bucks. Johnny Bucks, what's happening, brother?
Hello, chaps.
The man!
Love it when Johnny's here. How you been, man?
Oh, I've been great. Thanks, guys. Yeah, enjoying the heat over here. It's been great.
What'd you say that the temperature is for the smart folks out there that'll get this?
Oh, man. Well, I don't know Fahrenheit, but we got up to 38 degrees centigrade on Thursday, which was like the hottest it's ever been here.
Wow, the hottest?
I don't know what that is in American.
I'm about to find out. I have to know this now.
100 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's pretty respectable. You're getting 100-degree Fahrenheit temperature over there.
That is hot.
We had 107 yesterday, I believe.
But that's fairly standard for you guys, isn't it?
Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, and like this time of year, it stays this way for a good couple of months. So sorry you're going through the heat,
Wow.
buddy, but you're okay. You're not wilting or anything.
Mate, I love it. I really like it, actually.
How far are you from the nearest ocean?
About 5 minutes walk, so I can see it from my window.
Yeah, this guy's living the life.
Okay, I'm not even feeling bad for him at all.
We look out our window, we see another house.
Exactly. I mean, dude, so you could just go swimming if you want.
Yeah, the other day I did, just jumped in.
Do you ever go down there like to waist deep and take your bass and just play?
I did buy an acoustic bass so I could sit on the beach and play it. Yeah.
See? There we go. That is beautiful.
Got to corrode your strings, right? All that salt.
Yeah, I wouldn't take it in the water though. Come on.
That is beautiful, dude.
Maybe sit on my kayak and play it.
You have a kayak?
Yeah.
Wow.
Who is this guy?
That's nature-loving shit right there. I love it. I appreciate that. I'm the kind of guy, honestly, I don't know about you, Steve, but because you did live by the ocean for a while, I don't get into the ocean, period. I don't do it. I'm afraid of what's in there. Maybe if I was in some Caribbean water or something where I can actually see what I'm swimming with, but it's the thought of something hitting my leg or even worse, biting my leg, and I can't see what it is. That just freaks me out. It's always been that way.
Yeah, man. We're the Jaws generation,
Yeah,
right?
I think that really is like where it was stemmed from.
Yeah.
But there's just recently, I forget where it was, but they were showing, someone was filming. It was a great white shark that was like It was like 12 feet. That is a big ass shark. So if that's even anywhere remotely near where people are hanging out in the water, I don't want any part of it.
Dude, you're bugging.
Do you get in the water?
I used to swim in the ocean all the time.
I'm going to be on the beach just hanging out.
I mean, I get it. I think Johnny Bucks was right. The Jaws thing messed you up. It messed a whole generation up.
Yeah, man.
I was in Hawaii one time and the water was perfectly clear. And we did this thing called, was it snuba? Yeah, snubing. It's where you go down. It's like snorkeling, but you have an oxygen tank and you go down like 25 feet and you're hanging out there. And it's beautiful. All these beautiful fish and turtles and shit. And the turtles didn't freak me out for some reason. So I'm down there and suddenly out of the coral comes this long ass eel. And it's just like looking me right in the eye. And that was it. I was done.
Oh,
no mas.
More eel. Yeah, they're scary.
I don't like snakes either. So it was kind of like the
Yeah,
you know,
with
I'm
you
not
on that
telling
one.
people what an eel is, of course, but it was just ocean water, snake. So yeah, I don't go back into the ocean anymore.
Can you swim?
Yeah, I can swim. It's in the fucking ocean.
I mean, but you could have had like a life vest and paddles, Jay.
25 feet down, I have life vest and paddles. I got water wings on 25 feet down,
Oh,
Hudson.
that's true. You
Come
went
on, man.
snorkeling. That's true. Can everyone in your family swim?
Yeah, it's like just kind of a normal thing. Like I grew up with the pool, so we swam all the time. I used to be like a fish, but haven't had one for a while, so I think I kind of lost my sea legs. You know what I'm saying, matey?
Come
Sea
on,
legs
bro.
now. I'm a fucking pirate.
How many times you been to Hawaii? How many times you been to Hawaii? Out of curiosity.
Deuce times. Good stuff.
Oh, look at this guy, dude.
It's been too long.
But now that we have somewhere to stay, we could just go ahead and fly over to Kent.
Yeah, always welcome.
What you just said is like one of the words that's been thrown around a lot in the show we're about to talk about. Kent, you know what I'm getting at. How you doing, you Kents?
Oh, come on, Dan.
Don't even trip.
Dan.
I just said Kent. I'm talking to the people of Kent. I don't know if they're called Kentians. Today I chose Kent.
Or Superman's family.
Yeah, exactly. To all of the Kents out there, we bid you hello.
Wow. Now, so Dan, a show happened recently that was kind of a big deal for all three of us.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, you don't know?
Mm-mm.
Oh, shoot.
Hit me to it, man.
So I used to read this thing called The Boys, and every comic or every, there's a million comics about superheroes. What this is about is when a superhero saves someone, there's obviously collateral damage, and there is a group of people that deal out the punishment for said collateral damage. And they're the boys. And I thought, this is a genius idea. But I never in the world thought that they could bring this thing to screen. But then recently, a show called Preacher was put to screen. And even then I said, well, Preacher can work, but not the boys. And then Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg put the boys to screen on Prime Video. Can you believe it, fellas?
Huge component to that, Eric Kripke.
Dude, I honestly believe, okay, I might be wrong, Dan. Don't quote me.
All right, I forgive you, man.
I was mad that Supernatural was ending. And I was like, I wonder if he ended it to do the boys.
You know, I can tell you this. This is just my opinion because we haven't really given our opinion of the show yet, but I would say it's a wise decision. But I have no allegiance to that show. You know what I mean? Referring to Supernatural. I don't have an allegiance to it.
That's a great show, dude.
That's what I hear. So I'm not knocking it.
Have you watched it, Bucks?
No.
Oh, it's a good show.
What is there, like 76 seasons of it or something like that?
Yeah, like 13.
13 seasons, man.
Yeah, and so and as you see, like their Hall H is insane every year. But that's not saying anything because I'm sure some random shows Hall H is crazy every year.
Yeah, Hall H in general. But still.
Still, it's a but and for me, I was like, okay, Kripke, when I heard that he was going to be involved, Supernatural is very tame, but it's also on CW. So I imagine he couldn't really do what he wanted to. So I was like, oh, Kripke might kind of tame it down. He did not at all.
I would imagine after 13 seasons, you're starting to feel a little bit chained to the ground.
Oh, dude.
If you're on the CW, you know, like there's just no way, like you can take, there's no way you could even take part of the boys and put it on the CW.
How many notes do you think the CW gave him on every episode saying, oh, you know what? We can't really.
We got to scratch this off.
Exactly.
Sorry. Yeah. CW is not my kind of a vibe. I've tried very hard with shows, and I'm not going to knock anything, of course, but like shows with The Flash and Legends of Tomorrow and things like that. But it's just a little too, I don't know, too PG for me, I guess.
Too milquetoast. I totally understand. And I can see how Kripke was just like, he probably had something where like somebody gets hit in the jaw and CW was like, you're not going to get away with that. And he said, you know what? One day I'm going to make a show where somebody runs through somebody and explodes them. I'll show the world.
I'll show you.
And he did. It happened.
Before we go much further, I'm kind of curious. Now, Steve, you've already given your history with The Boys. Mm-hmm. I myself have read The Boys all the way through one time a long time ago. Since then, there have been many occasions where I'll start reading The Boys again, and I'll get about halfway to 2/3 through, and then I'll also just like stop, and then I'll go back again and I'll start. So I have a whole bunch of restarts with The Boys. Again, I'm about, this time around, I believe I am through the first compendium. So there's 2 more to go. Just my experience with this here, much like Steve, I mean, you didn't mention this, of course, but I believe that your first Garth Ennis experience is Preacher, correct?
Yes, that's my first ever.
And Johnny, how about you?
Well, I've been reading Garth Ennis since his times on the British comic 2000 AD.
Oh, nice. Okay, so you're way more familiar then.
Yeah, up to a point. He used to write for Judge Dredd and various other strips within that. It's like I don't know if you guys have we ever talked about this, 2000 AD?
I know that you and I have had conversations about this off mic, but I didn't know if we've ever mentioned it on the show.
Yeah, well, it's a long running. It's been around since like the late 70s. It sort of came out at the same time as punk rock and was a really subversive British comic, which gave birth to Judge Dredd and so many things have come out of that. Duncan Jones is working on a movie called Rogue Trooper, which is based on another classic story from that at the moment. But all of those guys, Garth Ennis, Grant Morrison, Alan Moore, they all came through 2000 AD and then went on to the States. Neil Gaiman, and ended up sort of pretty much taking over the American comics from a writing perspective in the 90s.
Right.
So I've been reading his work for a long time. I was a huge fan of Preacher when it came out. And then the run he did on Punisher was phenomenal, with Steve Dillon doing the artwork on that as well. But weirdly, never got around to reading The Boys. Had lots of friends saying, you got to read it. Never got around to it. You guys, we were chatting about Preacher and we talked about The Boys and, you know, I think it came up on one of the shows that I'd not read it yet and I was getting around to it. So I've just read it all over the last few months.
Everything's still fresh.
Yeah, so I'm kind of new to it. I'm old to Garth Ennis, but I'm new to The Boys. So I've just read the whole thing just a couple of weeks before the show starts. So I've got a slightly different perspective, I guess.
How good was that comic, dude?
Oh, it was great. It was really good. Yeah, I wouldn't put it on quite the same level as Preacher.
Oh, interesting.
But I really enjoyed it. But that's no criticism, really.
Preacher's one of the best
of,
ever.
Of all the comics I've ever read, that I think the whole run of Preacher is probably the best thing I've ever read.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Dude. It's incredible.
And we're talking, you know, I've read Sandman and I've read, you know, Watchmen and I've read loads of shit. But I think as an experience, reading Preacher was the best experience I've had reading a comic book series.
I agree with that.
But I really did like The Boys. I liked it an awful lot. I love Garth Ennis' sense of humor.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And I love how he loves to attack establishments and powerful people.
Yes. Yeah, he was ahead of the curve on that one.
Again, it's that very British sort of punk rock, anti-establishment kind of vibe, you know. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed the book a lot.
Like you, I tend to go more with Preacher. I mean, you know, I've read Preacher so many times that it has become a part of me. And with The Boys, because I haven't gotten through it multiple times, but, you know, like I said, sort of started over and over again, I guess you can say that my knowledge base isn't quite there. Like, we were actually going to do a dedicated podcast to The Boys, and I was ready to do the deep dive and really just, like, dig into everything. It didn't end up happening just because of time and everything like that. But I think even still I would agree with you that I think The Boys is, I don't want to say a lesser comic, but it's not my favorite when it comes to comparing the two. That said, for some of the people that have been listening to us for a while, I've got some shit to say that may surprise some of you. We do another show called The Word, the Unofficial Preacher podcast, and it's about the AMC show Preacher. It's going to be coming back August 4th.
Yay.
We love this show. Yeah, yay, right? Totally. We're excited. We actually just recorded our first episode for season 4 yesterday, and that'll be coming out later this week. Now, here's the deal. I love this show. I've seen As you know, I've seen all of them multiple times. So I know that show very well, almost as well as I know the comic. Now, here's the thing. As much as I love that show, guys, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to have to say, honestly, that I feel like The Boys is a better quality show. I feel like they have taken some notes from Preacher, and I think that they have expanded on that, and they know now what they can and can't get away with, and they know what they should try to avoid. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of just all about The Boys right now. I'm really surprised how much I like this show, because it's kind of like all I want to do. Like, if I know it's like not healthy, but I can just sit there and just watch this shit over and over and over again. The styling of the show, the fact how they took some pretty raunchy and controversial material and still kept it fairly controversial, worse in some parts than others. And much like Preacher, they took the original source material and they sort of reworked it. And even in this case, they did it better, in my opinion. I feel like they didn't go so far away from it and throw in like a name or two so you have some familiarity with the show in season 1. They took established characters and they basically gave us a backstory this time. And then we'll talk about the differences in a little bit. But I'm kind of curious what you guys think. I'm going to rate it in just a little bit. But just to go around, after watching the first season, what did you guys think? Steve?
I was a person that was going to come in this like very, because I didn't buy Carl Urban as the Butcher because I had lived with the Butcher in my brain and who I thought could play him. Mind you, Mother's Milk and the Butcher are just not humanly. I mean, unless you're going to get The Rock and...
You need some super big dudes.
Exactly. And The Rock's not going to probably do that part. Because and I only say him because him and Michael Clark Duncan are probably the only two people. And I'm just like, they could have probably gotten away with it. And they're not going to do The Boys, obviously, Michael Clark, for unfortunate reasons. But so anyway, the Butcher, I don't know who would have done that part. I don't know who's built like, they would have to find a newcomer. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe they'll get some newbies. But when I saw Carl Urban, I was like, he's not exactly what I thought in my brain, let alone Mother's Milk. I was like, definitely not who I thought. Huey, I was like, wait, he's not Huey. And he looks so much like his dad. It's ridiculous. And so as I started watching it had a lot going against it. Within one episode, I said, oh no.
Sold.
Is this going to be better than Preacher? And then the second episode, and the funny thing is, here's what made me know that this was a better show. I loved all the characters. I loved how they introduced everyone, how they did the whole introduction. And here's where it really took another level. When Homelander got in his bag, when he actually filled out the character during the show, where he figured out this is how I'm going to play Homelander, it was over. This guy is a star, and this show is on a different level. Everything on this show is amazing. So I'm going to say this show, so far, the year is not done, is easily the show of the year for me. Not even close so far. The show of the year. And I'm going to turn it over to Bucks.
Wow. Okay. Well, first off, before I say anything else, I'm thinking season 2, which has been confirmed. I think me and everybody else who listens to you guys on a regular basis would like you to do that as a show.
Oh!
I'm just throwing it out there.
You mean you want a dedicated podcast?
We all want the podcast. You know that.
Oh,
Come
God.
on, guys.
Real quick, I'm sorry to cut you off, man, but I'm telling you one thing since you mentioned that, and I think Steve will agree. Had we known how good this show was going to be. You know what I'm saying? Like it was one of those things because here's the situation. And I'm really sorry, John. I'll get right back to you. But we really wanted to do it. We were in talks to do it. Not in talks. I make it sound like we're sitting in business meetings. But, we were talking about it. We were telling other people and bouncing the idea off of people.
Yeah.
And it just came down to timing because, as we all know, The Boys dropped at once, which is a new thing for us as far as like, how do you navigate that? You know what I mean? Do you do one show a week and by 10 weeks later everyone's kind of done with it, or do we just knock them all out at once? Do we do one giant show? There was a lot to that we were thinking about. And on top of that, Preacher starts up on Sunday, so it was like, okay, are we really going to try to do 3 shows You know, because we don't want to stop doing
of course,
Heroes of Noise. We certainly can't stop doing The Word as its last season. So it's just I think it was a timing thing. I think if Preacher was done, we absolutely would have done it. But had I known that this show was as good as it was, I think I would have tried, Steve. I think I would have been a pain in your ass saying, let's get up 8 o'clock in the morning, man. We're going to do 3 shows this week.
It was so good.
Amazing.
I totally agree. I'll just say that. All right.
Yeah, sorry, John. Back to you, though, sir.
I love the fact that you guys, obviously, I got into you guys on The Word.
Right.
You know, that's when I first came across you fellas. So it's great that you're going to see that through. But like, all I'm saying is, you know, it's the final season of Preacher, right? What are you going to do?
You got to do something, right?
It's true.
You know, what are you going to do next year?
True. You make a great point.
You know,
it's the perfect fit, really, isn't it?
It kind of is. It is a nice gap filler.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you guys don't do it, I'm going to do it, and you can just...
Come on. What are you doing, Bucks? It's over. You done put it in the atmosphere. You got to do it.
Yeah, I've said it. It's out there now. I'd rather you guys did it, obviously, but...
Well, I guess we got at least a year to figure this out. So that is something that we can definitely come back to.
Yeah.
They are filming as we speak. Right now on Twitter, they said they have the, you know, what are the little thing in action things?
Oh, clapperboard.
Yeah, they have that, and it shows The Boys season 2 filming now.
Oh, good God.
Oh, sweet.
Sooner than later.
Yeah. But, you know, all you fellow podcast community members and listeners, let these guys know.
Oh, no, it's too late. You're already doing it.
Let's get this organized. Let's get on their case.
Bucks is already doing it. Good deal.
See, Steve's deferring right now, but you know I'm going to be like, as soon as we hang up, I'm going to be like, I think he's got a point.
All right, so Johnny, your thoughts?
Well, having read the comic, really, like I say, I'm just fresh off the back of it. I'm really pleased that I was, because I could immediately sort of compare and contrast with it fresh in my mind. I watched the trailer, right? It all began with the trailer, and I heard Carl Urban's accent, and I thought, oh no, what is this going to be like? This is a problem. All you other UK-based listeners, or even if you're from New Zealand or anywhere really English-speaking outside of the US, it's a bit of a problem, isn't it? The accent.
That is so funny.
Is it distracting to you to the point like you're sort of being taken out of the scenes, or?
Yeah.
Really?
Initially, yeah. I mean, as soon as I'd watched the trailer, I thought, right, I need to get my head around this. Unless they're going to fix it somehow, he's clearly not getting the accent right. It's all over the fucking place.
That is so funny to me. I thought he was nailing it, and Johnny was like, nope.
No, it's definitely not nailing it. He's proper Dick Van Dyke-ing it up in his own charming Kiwi way. But once I'd kind of adjusted and adapted to thinking, right, well, he's clearly not a native Londoner. He's a Kiwi that spent a lot of time in London and has ended up with some sort of a weird version of the mid-Atlantic accent, like the mid-Pacific accent, or whichever way around you want to go. But he's kind of obviously got a blended accent. So once I'd accepted that, yeah, I absolutely loved it. I thought it was great. And it got better and better as it went along.
So much.
And the choices they made to change it from the comic book, the decisions they made to slightly adapt it or change some things quite majorly were really, really smart and good decisions. I think the way they've translated it from the book to TV and also from the 90s to now, I think were really smart decisions, and in some cases necessary decisions.
Yep.
I think
there's just some things, John, that you just can't do anymore. And there was a 90s, as you're saying, there was a 90s mentality in the comic that I guess was, for lack of a better word, commonplace, right? I mean, we just didn't know any better. You know, and I don't think that, I think that Garth was definitely cutting edge. I mean, I truly love that he just has that don't give a fuck attitude. But going forward in time, there's just certain things that you just can't do anymore. I mean, if you want to avoid a lot of trouble, you have to sort of bend. And the way, you're right, the way that they did that was just so well because it wasn't so off-putting. Like, in other words, going back to Preacher again, season 1 was off-putting to me. You know what I mean? Because like they're doing a whole other backstory, but they did it in a way, in my opinion, where it kind of was a mistake. It was a little bit unnecessary what they did. These guys have expanded on it, and for lack of a better term, made it politically correct to some degree, of course. And it's just more palpable, I guess, to the general public. To some people. Now, you know, that's not the case with everyone, of course, but Yeah, man, I totally agree with you. I think that the way that he did that was just, or the way that they did that, I should say, is just so stylish and very smart. Like, I think that there was a lot of meetings involved with that. How are we going to tackle this to make it palpable for everyone and not lose fans?
Yeah, and there's a lot of things that happened in the comic, the 90s comic, that it would be very, very difficult to redeem some of them in the mind of today. Like by the end of you still hate them by the end of the show. Because you're so like, they did that, it's over. If they did the original Starlight, the little qualification ceremony thing, where if they did the original from the comic, very few people would get over it by the end. They'd be like, oh, this was just terrible. Because it wasn't just one person in the comic.
Yeah.
I was like, and even doing the one person in the show, it was still, some people were like, oy, oy, oy. And so if they would have been like, Homelander coming in, like, hey, they would have been like, oh, no. This can't happen, man. And so I think it was good for them to say, you're going to have to build Homelander to how evil he is. In the comic, they didn't build. They just threw in that thing. And at the time, it would still be like, well, he's gross. That's nasty. But right now, if he would have done that, there is nowhere to build him to now. He already did the most evil thing. It's over now. He's eaten. But in the show, they build him to this thing. And then there's a certain plane scene where you're like, oh, this guy is horrible. That's what makes you know, oh, this guy is a horrible monster. But if they would have just started out with the Starlight scene, you would have been like, oh, he's a horrible monster. Game over. It's just such smart TV making. It's just wise.
Well, for the purposes of this, and we're not going to go too spoiler heavy with this, we probably will have some light spoilers, but we all decided right before recording that, it's still a new show. It's only been out for the weekend, and of course, we just absorb this thing like sponges, but not everyone does that, so we don't want to ruin it for everyone. So you might get some light spoilers. We'll allude to a few things, but I think we're going to try to keep it as safe as possible so you can still enjoy it. But getting to that airplane scene, Steve, do you think that they did that, and Johnny too, because it's more fresh in your head, do you think that they did that to sort of replace the 9/11 stuff and kind of do two things at once?
Yeah, I agree with Johnny, yeah.
I mean, I was just actually reading through that part last night again, just for notes purposes, and it does make sense. I mean, if you look at the frames and you look at what's on the show, they're very similar. The situations are very similar. So I feel like it's a good way to tackle something and not have to go back in time to do so,
Definitely.
And it's so smart how they made Homelander. Now, here's what I'll say. I don't sympathize with him at all. But the way that they give his backstory, you say, what else could have happened? What did you think would have come out of this? What you guys did? You know what I'm saying? I don't sympathize with them, but they at least say, hey, this is what was happening before, and this is what came out of what they were doing. And I'm like, yeah, I totally get that. Just like in the comic, I was like, yeah, what else did you think was going to happen? I didn't think it was going to transfer well onto the show, but I'm like, I don't like the guy, but what else do you think you would have created doing this thing? Yeah, this is what happens. This thing is what happens. And so I was like, oh, this is brilliant. Just brilliant filmmaking, G. I don't know who sat down with the whiteboard, but however they said, here's how we're going to connect the dots. Did it flawlessly, G. Flawlessly. I would even dare say he's my star player in this show.
Oh, yeah. I agree with you 100%.
And he wasn't that in the comic. How many different emotions the Anthony Starr has to toggle with? There's one part where he tears up but looks really evil. I'm like, oh, he doesn't want to tear up. He's just thinking about something that makes him so mad. Yeah. And he's like, oh. I was like, oh, he's an actor.
He's excellent. He's absolutely excellent in this.
Do you think he's the star player,
Bob? Yeah, definitely. He's the standout. Although I've always liked Elizabeth Shue, and I think she's fantastic in this as well.
She puts her all into this. It seems like everyone on this show knows what show they're on.
Yeah.
They know. And they're fully bought in. And then Giancarlo Esposito makes a random appearance.
Hey.
I said,
never mind him. Never mind him. Malcolm Barrett's in it. Come on.
Malcolm Barrett makes a random appearance.
He's a friend of your show, right? Friend of the word?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, he's a friend of Dan. Yeah.
He's a friend of the show.
Another reason that you guys have to cover season 2.
John's just trying to sell us on season 2, period.
And Dave Blass as well. He's the production designer, another friend of yours.
Did a great job. So good.
Let's talk about that for just a second. Is it me? Because I guess I have some bias. I mean, he's a nice guy, and he was nice enough to do the show and everything like that. And he's a big personality. You know, he has a lot to say. So I really like that guy. But when Preacher was on, particularly in season 1, and he was tweeting a lot and showing all the little background stuff that he does, this man pays so much attention to detail. Like, it's just true freaking love that he puts into this stuff. And did anyone else like notice that? Like that quality? Like, I was looking for it personally. So I don't know if it's just me and I'm biased, but I really feel like he truly brings something to the set, from the amount of blood to the little Easter eggs to all that stuff. Man, you don't get that with everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
He's doing the Lord's work, ladies and gentlemen. That's all I can tell you. So yeah, I mean, let's just kind of get into it. And like we said, ladies and gentlemen, this is a sort of a light spoiler show. But if you're not familiar with The Boys, I know we just mentioned it a little bit, but let's go ahead and just give you the premise of what this show is about, particularly the Amazon version. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. A group of vigilantes set out to take down corrupt superheroes who abuse their superpowers. What if superheroes just got away with everything? What if they were employed by a gigantic organization that sort of governed everything they did, but hid a lot of things? Who do you call in for checks and balances? You call the boys in. And that's what we're here to talking about today. I don't really know where to start with this because I don't want to break it all the way down. But if I may, I just want to, the little things of detail that they did that I just thought was so awesome. Did anyone notice right from the very top, the cool Marvel nod that they do with the Vought Studios intro?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. You said the Marvel intro they did?
Yeah, well, it's not a Marvel intro, but it's total nod to Marvel because, you know, picture like the opening of a Marvel movie, all the different frames and everything with the music in the background. They basically did that, but they did their own version of it with Heroes from the Boys, and it comes out at the end. It's Vought Studios. So cool that they did that.
I didn't even peep that. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, check it out when
That's
you get a
really
chance.
cool.
I think they only do it on the first episode, if I'm not mistaken, because you know how like when you're streaming, you just hit next one and it goes.
Oh,
so I don't know if they're doing it
Okay.
every single
I'm
time
with you.
around.
Oh, well.
Yeah, but it is something that they do right up at the top, and I thought that was awesome. I don't want to like hijack the show or anything, but should we talk comparisons to the comics? Should we just sort of talk about what we liked? What do you think?
I don't know how. The thing is, like, it's what they're doing right now. There's certain things that happen in so many various comics.
Yes.
That I couldn't really compare them because it's not a linear. I'm like, oh, that normally happens in like the 4th edition, but they brought it and happened it, and I was like, okay, I can't really know where they're going because I might be like, oh, but they didn't do this thing. Be like, yeah, not yet.
Yeah.
They're gonna do it, but just not in a sequential order. Like the lying down on there's a part where someone is lying on a lawn and runs into someone that they thought was whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just does not happen. So I'm like, oh, so they're just it's really hard to compare.
Yeah.
It's like, who knows? They're going to take little bits from here. But I will say, none of the people look anything like the characters in the book, except for maybe Frenchie.
What about the female of the
And the
species?
female, definitely.
I mean, she looks pretty good. When she's all messy, she looks pretty close. When she's jumping around and like doing what she does, her first intro to what she can do was pretty brilliant. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you, Steve. I'm just saying personally, I thought that they hit that right on the nose, man. They actually surprised me with that one because I was curious how they were going to handle that. Are they going to make her as vicious as she is in the comic? And yes, the answer is yes.
Well, see, I thought they were going to go with it. In my opinion, I would have gone with a teenager, a skinny, tiny little teenager, because in the book, she's so little. Yeah. This girl is kind of a normal size woman. That girl, the reason that she's so surprising in the book is that she's so little. And I was like, why didn't you just get a teen like this, like the Wolverine's daughter? That she was so surprising because you're like, this is a girl killing everybody. I think they should have made her that.
I feel you.
But again, she was perfectly fine.
Let's just say one thing about the show versus the comic is that when you enter the show on Amazon, you are actually dealing with people that don't have certain skills yet. I'll put it that way. Their backstory is not filled because it's just get up and go. Much like Preacher, it's just go. So you meet these people, they're already established as this team. I like that they did that because we are kind of getting to know these people from a different angle. The whole female backstory is intriguing to me. I don't know how much they're going to run with that or whatever, but I thought it was nice, man. I just think it's cool to kind of flesh these people out. I thought it was different that they did Madeline Stillwell versus James Stillwell, TV to comic. Because much like you're saying, Steve, without getting into it, a certain grass scene really wouldn't have been in the shot. I mean, they just wouldn't have been in the show, rather. But yeah, just little things like that. I know I don't want to keep repeating myself, of course, but I think that they just handled this so well. And they kept some of the key things that you need to see that a lot of people are just going to take at face value if they haven't read the comic, but something just as subtle as, say, Butcher's crowbar.
Yeah.
You know, the scene in the electronic shop. I was like, oh, look at the crowbar. There it is. You know, I just love the way that they did that. There were so many cool fan service things that they did that I just so much.
And the overcoat, you put the overcoat on in the last episode. It's like, well,
he had it on in the beginning too. Yeah. He had it on in the beginning. Remember, because Huey told him that he looked like a porn version of the Matrix.
Yes. I don't think they're making a big enough deal about the coats.
Yeah.
They're not making it enough of a thing because everyone, I thought that's one thing I miss is that everyone in the comic had that jacket. Like you would know that they're the boys because they're coming with that jacket. When Huey got his jacket, I just missed that.
Yeah.
Well, I think that it also gives us some room to play around in season 2.
True.
There's so much to this story still that I think that they're being wise about setting up this backstory, doing it in a better fashion than it was done on season 1 of Preacher, and they're giving us room for this stuff to happen later on. Like I can totally see this going to season 3, season 4. Easy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
For a while, I was thinking that possibly Madeline Stillwell was going to be the Susan Rayner part, you know, the CIA operations director, because I just thought that she was like the strongest female presence, at least in the marketing campaign. So I'm thinking, okay, is she going to, and I wasn't really thinking of James Stillwell at the time. So I'm thinking, is it going to be, because Jennifer Esposito does a great job in this as Susan Rayner. But I was for some reason thinking that somehow they were going to sort of like merge Madeline Stillwell and Susan Rayner together to create this character. But I don't know. What did you think of the female casting? And I should be more specific too. I don't mean the female of the species. I just meant the casting of the female actors. What did you think of them?
I thought Starlight was fine. I mean, would I have liked a different person? Yes, probably. But I see when they made it, when they did the whole, when it got up to the Christian arena, I said, oh, she looks that part for sure. That I buy. And so I'm like, okay, I'm buying that this is her background because she looks like the typical person from that church for sure. No question. So I'm like, okay, I buy that. Queen Maeve was a freaking star. That's who I want. Like she could have been Wonder Woman for me because she just has a presence. And so I loved Queen Maeve. Jennifer Esposito was fine. Elizabeth Shue, she was really good. I think what you're saying could have been actually really smart if they merged the character. I think that actually could have been pretty interesting. Where they're like, oh, he's in cahoots with this person that's juggling, knowing that he's after who she is creating. I thought that would have been really interesting. But we haven't had the Butcher and Jennifer do anything. So there's nothing there. And remember, her life takes a huge downturn, which might happen in the second season. So I liked all of them. What about you guys?
I like that the Mallory was also a female part in this.
Yes.
I thought that was a nice touch as well. And I thought it added extra weight to the, the backstory there about what happened.
That also leads me to believe, John, that do you think that we are going to get these backstories? They do mention the lamplighter. Yeah. They do mention Mallory's situation, as you were alluding to. They also talk about teenage kicks a lot.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if they're dropping these things. You know, we heard the name Tech Knight. We heard, who else did we hear? We heard several names. Of course, Popclaw was in it, but they did give us that. I'm hoping that they do a little bit more. Speaking of female characters, Popclaw, again, with the whole teenage kicks thing, I'm glad that they're dropping these people in. And I think it's actually kind of wise at the same time, too, because if you think about it, if they didn't change, say, Madeline Stillwell, if they didn't change Mallory up, start counting the number, like the ratio is what I'm getting at. It technically is the boys.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So it was kind of cool to like even that out.
Yeah, again, I think that's one of the ways that they've adapted it in a really cool way. You want the TV show to have as much of an impact and a shock value as the books. But to do that in today's society and today's political climate and everything else, it's got to be slightly different. And I think the way they've changed it has helped to sort of really zero in on those moments of impact having maximum effect given the current sort of climate.
That's totally true. Because a lot of people would have been like, you guys are just going overboard to go overboard. That's what you're doing. You're trying to be like, we're going to go after everybody that thinks we're so sensitive. You're so sensitive. No, they really they kind of held back a lot.
Yeah, they're picking the moments and they're picking their targets, And I think
exactly
in a really, really clever way.
Considering what happens in the beginning with Starlight, there's a conversation later on that kind of was just like, kind of did a so what? Whatever you did, so what? Who cares? Life goes on, move on. That sort of thing. But I was like, it's dope that they're trying to be like, you're not your worst, what you did at worst. But I could see how if someone had been coerced into that situation, they'd be like, it's not that easy to just be like, it's your worst situation. Now you could become something else. I'm like, they really toggled it wisely. They didn't make it a light thing. They didn't make it a nothing thing. They just were like, look, it happened. And now she has a bit of the backstory she did in the book, just not to the extent.
Yeah.
We don't need to go all the way there.
Yeah.
She now has a bit of backstory. And I still don't know her full backstory. We don't even know, as much as I like to be like, oh, Starlight, that's because of the comic. But in the TV show, we really don't know a lot about her. Like, how was it when she first discovered she had powers? How was that? How did that change? We don't know anything about any of these people, really.
Yeah, there was no time given to the young Americans.
No. There's so much that they can do now, dude.
Right, which to people that haven't read the comic, we have the 7, of course, in the show, but there are the Young Americans, Teenage Kicks, several other teams, lots of other teams, actually, that they're all referenced throughout the comic. But yeah, so there's a lot that they can do with this, I'm kind of glad that they didn't give us the full backstory on that.
Yeah, yeah.
Here's what they were betting on. A second season. I mean, they bet heavy on it because they left it on a cliffhanger.
If you look back at old tweets from Eric Kripke, it's almost like the confidence was there. You know what I mean? Like he was so into this show when he was tweeting about it that it almost seems like it was a lock. like he already knew something that we didn't, like a 2-season deal or something right up front. Of course, when you're doing a new show and you're going to try and market it, of course you're going to say all good things about it. But I felt like there was a level of bravado in his tweets that sort of had me thinking that, okay, I think they had multiple seasons. I'm starting to think maybe that's the way things are going. I mean, look at Stranger Things, a bigger beast, but they were pretty much filming as season 3 dropped. They were doing season 4. So maybe that's the way things are going in the streaming services now.
Yeah.
I would say, I think when you're Kripke and you just had 13 seasons of a show, being canceled isn't a thing.
Yeah, I mean, they know he has longevity.
Yeah,
sure.
And he's just like, I go into things knowing that I'm going to have a bunch of seasons. He went in probably even if they didn't guarantee it. He's like, I'm so good at what I do that I know I'm going to get a second season. Maybe because if I came off of a 13-year killing it with ratings show, I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to do it again. That's how I do it. And this is what you get when you have a seasoned showrunner.
Yeah, he's a polished
That's what's happening. Yep, that's what they got, a seasoned, polished person that knows how to make a 13-season arc continue. And he's like, I know how to build a show and make it so it goes for a long time. That's a seasoned showrunner. And this is what happens when you give a great story to a great showrunner. Magic happens.
What are your thoughts on how they revamped some of the characters, say the Deep? Like to me it seems like, and it's definitely a bit of a nudge to DC or Marvel for the fact that, I mean, like, the Deep now looks like fucking Aquaman, you know what I mean?
They're not even pretending.
In the comic, of course, I know, yes, I guess I am that guy that's going to be the in the comic guy, but in the comic, it basically he looks more like something you would see out of like like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, or you know what I mean,
yeah.
Or like the little dude in your fish tank, that kind of thing, But I think that they did this as a bit of a joke, but I mean, I guess they kind of had to modernize things too. I mean, they kept Black Noir looking just dope as hell. A-Train, of course, looks pretty close outside of an ethnicity change. Looks pretty close to the comic, so that needed to be done. If you're going to keep the Deep in there, then you gotta do something, because it was a little bit clunky if you're actually going to do live action with something like that.
Well, the Deep's a much more featured character than he was in the books.
Yes,
he was kind of more of a background kind of guy, but yeah, he's a much more upfront character in this one. He's got a larger share of what's going on. They've taken him into like a sort of comedic direction, which I've really enjoyed.
Like Johnny said, I'm shocked that they spend so much time with the Deep. I don't know what they're angling for, like what his arc is going to be, but there's something that's going to be going on with him.
Well, Steve, I think you hit the nail on the head earlier, man. They chose him to be the offender in that particular scene with Starlight, right? And it's wise to do so because in the comic, it's Homelander, A-Train, and Black Noir that are in that room.
Yes.
So if you automatically douchebag out your big characters, for instance, Homelander, you're going to have that negative connotation to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They focused on one guy, made him sort of the scapegoat and yes, comic relief. But at the same time, as we know, the tables are turned quite drastically towards the end of the season, right? And there's a little bit of, I don't want to say redemption, but I think there is a little bit of, I think karma is at work. You know what I mean? With his character. And it shows his fall from grace. It shows his, insecurities very well. And then I'm referring to the one particular scene where the tables are extremely turned on him when he's with a female counterpart in his room. I know I'm being very vague about that. It has to do with gills, and I'll just say that. But so I think that they did that on purpose so that way you can build, like Black Noir for some reason is just left pristine in the show. The three of us know what's going to happen if it happens that way. Yeah. And I'm thinking that they did that on purpose because there's a pretty big story break towards the end of the comic. And I think that's why they're doing that with him. So I think it's important to kind of keep your main guys clean. You got Black Noir, who's essentially clean. You haven't really seen what he can do just yet. You have Homelander, who of course is the main bad, but he also has these qualities about him that makes you don't want to stop watching him while he's on television. But whenever you see the Deep, of course, you definitely get that, oh, that fucker. He's the guy that you want to hate on the show. So I think they were smart how they played that.
A few things on that. I love what you said there. I think the interesting thing about the Deep is he took advantage of someone that was powerless to him at the time. But then later on, this girl tells him she's doing something and she pretty much is like, shut up, you freak.
Yes.
And he sits there and takes it because he can only prey on the powerless. Like, he doesn't have the gonads to be like, I'm going to punch up. He can only punch down, which is most of the time for those douches. He can only punch down. And even the guy that he was renting from for a certain reason, he had to rent in a certain city, or not renting, but the guy that was in charge, he was like, there's a part where he's like, I'm leaving. He's like, you're not going anywhere. He didn't be like, yes, I am. He doesn't even have that in him. Anyone could just take control of this guy unless you're totally powerless. And I thought that was an interesting thing that they did. They're like, oh, you got to see that he's only powerful to those he feels that he can have power over. Because as soon as someone established their power and kind of threatened him, he was scared. Immediately, the same person he had just did that terrible thing to is immediately he's scared of now.
I mean, you could tell that the first meeting after the incident when she said that she's not going anywhere and her eyes brighten up like that.
Bingo.
And I think that was super smart to play him that way, Steve, because if you just look at it at face value, then he's just the bully, so to speak. But he ends up getting his. And if people were made uncomfortable by that first scene, I don't know if it necessarily gives them the justice that they're looking for that guy. But at the same time, it paints a picture of who he truly is.
And I think the hard thing about the Homelander in the comic is he does this horrible thing in the beginning. And it took so long for him to get his. So long. And I don't think people have the patience for that because that would take like 5 seasons. And it was like, will you please, someone? But he doesn't get his to the very end. And I love how they made Homelander. They're like, they were rattling off everybody's vices. And they said, oh, well, then what does Homelander do? And the Butcher was like, he's flawless. He doesn't drink. He doesn't smoke. He is a walking perfection. Butcher didn't want to say it like that. But he's like, there's nothing. I've looked. He doesn't have a vice. Little did he know he did. And he's like, oh, the vice is this whatever. But then Homelander shows him, oh no, you forgot. I really don't have vices. I will get rid of anything. And so he's a perfect anti-hero. What do you take from someone who cares about nothing? Oh, well, then you can't drink anymore. I don't drink. You can't smoke anymore. I don't smoke. Well, the person you like, I'm going to take this person. It's like, well, I don't care about anyone. What do you do to a man who you can't shoot him, hurt him, and he cares about no one?
Arse bomb. Oh no, that was someone else.
That is so funny.
He's my favorite villain that I've seen in a very long time.
Oh, no question. Because he's a villain that it's going to take more than just, well, let's find his weakness. Billy the butcher thought he found something and he didn't. And it's like, well, then what do you, I can't just become as strong as him because no matter what you do, the comic will explain that he is a special specimen. He was I know, and everybody that read the comics knows, he's a special specimen, which is why he's the Homelander. And also another thing I like, this is such off topic, I loved when they kind of shot out, they sent a shout out to all, like Superman. Did you peep the undercut to Superman? They didn't purposely do it, but it was like, oh yeah, that wouldn't work. Where she was like, hey, get under this thing and just fly it to somewhere else. He said, there is no ground. What am I pressing against? I said, oh my God.
Yeah.
I never even thought of that. I said, I never thought of that. He's like, there's no force underneath. What am I pressing against? I said, oh man. And she's like, well, just punch this thing up. He's like, I would either fly through or break it in half. I said, oh, they're using physics. They're like, it would not work. Me being as small as I am and as strong would just break the thing in half. I was like, dude, this show is on a different level, y'all. Because they could have just done the cute thing. But they're like, these are the reasons these ideas wouldn't work physically. How genius is that? Also, real quick, for both of you guys, out of curiosity, if he would have pressed too hard in the middle of the plane, would have just broken the plane in two?
I think it depends on how much comic we're talking. Take Superman, for instance. He's just able to do those things.
Mm-hmm.
They actually sort of talk about it in the comic where there is another plane incident, and it's, who is it? It's Homelander, and I believe he has Marathon on his back.
Yes.
And they're flying at this damn plane. Of course, the speed's a lot different, but they crash right through that plane. So I don't know. You know, you asked an interesting question the other day, Steve, and maybe we can kind of figure out some of the elements of that. Is it comic physics? Is it true physics? Is it?
I feel like it's based way more real world because they've mentioned Cardi B and Beyonce. They're trying to be like, this is set in your timeline. So I'm like, oh, they're trying to be grounded. But here's a question I have for both of y'all, because I was doing the Superman thing. I'll toss it to Bucks. In this real world universe, who wins in a fight, Homelander or Superman?
Superman.
Oh, give me the rationale, Bucks.
I think he edges him on the speed front because Superman can go so fast he can turn back time, right?
That's true, because remember, they were so fast, he had to race Flash.
So Homelander's fast, but you can see that guy when he's moving, right?
Oh, yes.
He's not like A-Train or whatever. He's just like, he's gone, he's back again.
That's true.
But Superman can do that. So I think he could probably outmaneuver him from that point of view.
That is totally true. What about you, Dan?
So we were just talking about the whole physics thing with the plane, right? Superman doesn't have that problem. He's not tripping on something being beneath him. So let's say he was in some type of a air battle with Homelander. This is such nerdy shit. I love it. And you know, he would be able to get under that plane, carry it where he needed it to, and cast it at a Homelander. So he's got that jump on him when it comes to like the physics part of it. However, Homelander does have heat vision, right? He does have super strength. Yes, he can fly, but the thing that he has the advantage over Superman on is much like the thing that happens with, like, say, Zod or something like that. He's got no morals.
Yeah.
So he's willing to play dirty.
Yeah, yeah.
He would be willing to sacrifice thousands of people to beat Superman. You know what I mean? Whereas Superman would probably just sacrifice himself or allow himself to be injured to save all of these people. So there's a huge advantage when it comes to morals. So I don't know. I think that it'd be an awesome match.
And we don't know his kryptonite either, do we?
That's true. We don't know his weakness, and the weaknesses that he shows aren't anything that would really interfere with him in a battle.
Ooh,
interesting.
That is there. See, for me, I think if they're just like, if there's two possibilities. Number one, they said, we're going to put you in an arena and you guys are going to fight. That's one possibility. In that fight, Superman might edge it. If they just run into each other, Homeland's going to kill Superman, because Superman's going to do the Homelander now, you know, we could do this a better, and Homelander's just going to blaze him because he doesn't have that in him. He's like, why are we talking? Let's get to the funk. He's just going to cut him in half instead of doing that now. That's not Homelander. And so
Yeah, there's no rationalizing.
No. He's like, this is going down today. Let's do it. But if it was I'm going to have an arena, Superman's gonna just do him in because he already has it in his brain. This is how I'm gonna beat him. That's not how Homelander works. Homelander's like, here's how I'm going to beat him. I'm going to get into the arena, and then I'm just going to fight and blaze everything. And he'll just blaze the whole arena trying to get Superman wherever he flies. But if they just ran into each other, oh, dude. While Superman is getting his big, this world can be a better place. That whole thing, Homelander's going to cut his head off.
Yeah, that mouth going to get him in trouble.
Exactly. That is all it's going to be. And Homelander's going to be like, all right, that was fun. He talked a lot.
Yeah, I actually agreed with John when we were talking about it. I said, yes, Superman, because of the whole physics thing. But I think I sort of talked myself into thinking that it would be Homelander. Unless
Superman's just distracting him and then Batman just sneaks up behind and takes him out.
Oh, that's true.
I have a better one. Same two people, but evil Superman from Superman 3.
Oh.
I'm thinking Superman wins.
Mutually assured destruction.
I'm pretty sure Superman's going to take it if it's evil Superman from Superman.
I don't know, dude.
He's on tar. It's all fucked up, Steve. Tar's a bitch. He doesn't need Compound V.
That's the thing. He doesn't need Compound V. But also, I don't know, what we have not taken into consideration, and I have to see the breakdown of what exactly is emitting from his eyes. What are they both shooting? What's coming out of their eyes? I don't know. And I don't know if what's coming out of their eyes can actually penetrate Superman or penetrate Homelander. I don't know.
I will say this, too. Homelander definitely has a better use of his heat vision.
Ooh.
Oh,
Superman's
dope.
busy welding up planes that are going down. Homelander's like, let's cut that plane in half and everything in it. Without getting too far into it, that scene where he goes into that factory where the terrorists are was one of my favorite scenes from the entire thing.
Yeah, amazing.
Here's the dopest scene.
Almost as good as Butcher with the baby.
Oh, that was fantastic too.
That was great, but my favorite scene is him, Homelander walking in the dark with his eyes glowing, looking from place. I was like, oh, how menacing is that?
Fine.
Holy crap, dude. I said, that is the scariest scene I have seen in a while. And I've watched a few horror movies lately. I said, I would rather fight that random monster than seeing this superhero coming down the stairs looking for me with his eyes glowing. Especially seeing that it could just slice through people. I was like, what?
Oh, boy, does he.
Hey, man, I've got a question. If you're listening, this is going to be I don't know about significant spoiler, but it is a spoiler nonetheless. So if you are not interested in any spoilers about The Boys, I would jump off, maybe fast forward for about 5 minutes, because this is something that I've been wanting to talk about because it's bugging me. You ready? 3, 2, 1. Spoiler time, guys. Now, what I'm getting at is, because this really kind of bothered me, the boys don't necessarily have good morals. They're going to do what it takes to get the job done, right?
Yes.
And they're going to do some really, really dirty shit. Towards the end, there is a scene that involves Madeline Stillwell, her child, Homelander, and of course, Butcher. And it has to do with a big explosion.
Yes.
So I'm just making sure I saw this correctly. Do you think that Butcher is as bad as Homelander when it comes to morals? Because if I'm seeing this correctly, Butcher basically killed a baby.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm getting at, John?
Yeah.
They're in this confrontation, and Butcher makes a decision to go ahead and just, blow this place to freaking Kingdom Come. And I'm wondering, do you think the baby's dead? If the baby's dead, Butcher killed that baby, right? So does that make him as bad as Homelander?
They're more similar than he wants to admit, dude.
Yeah.
Because Homelander's willing to do whatever it takes to do something.
Yeah.
And Butcher just did the same thing. He just said, well, screw it, and flicked that switch, knowing there was a baby who had nothing to do with anything in that house. And then his life was saved by the very person he hates.
Let's take that into consideration. If that's the case, then technically Homelander could have saved the baby as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for sure. But he didn't.
Yeah,
but I don't think he did at all.
But that doesn't take away from the fact that Butcher thought it would be a good idea to blow up a baby. That's
Totally.
all. I'm just yeah, that was the one thing that I didn't find it off-putting. I mean, I've read The Boys, so it wasn't off-putting to me, but it was like, oh shit, yeah, I think we have a question of morality here. And I was just curious because regardless if that baby shows up in season 2, as far as Butcher knows, he blew that shit to Kingdom Come, right?
Well, here's the thing, I think that's true, but what I also understood was he underestimated Homelander. He didn't know he was that fast. He thought, well, screw it.
Oh, yeah, clearly.
And I'm like, now he has to realize, oh, this guy is even better than I thought. And I think that fact is what's going to make him understand I can't beat him as a normal human being. I have to do something extra. And I think that's when because remember, like, Bucks just read the comic. They haven't even done the Compound V injections yet, Bucks.
That's another true spoiler, but that's okay. We're still talking in spoiler time.
Are they even going to do that, though?
That's a good point.
Yeah. We should probably talk about that subtle difference. It's not subtle, actually, at all. It's actually a pretty big difference.
That's a massive difference.
And the whole, are we still in spoiler zone?
Sure, why not?
The whole mother's milk thing in the comic where he gets his strength from.
That's right.
I thought if they switched that to Homelander, because there's a couple of scenes where he's like lying on the sofa with Stillwell.
And
I was like, oh, is that where they're going with this?
And that would make sense of the name.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Because Mother's Milk is he's not powered.
He's not.
But the concept of where he got his powers from, if they switched that over to Homelander and Stillwell.
That's very interesting, man.
Speaking of the lap lay, there was a thing that I missed. I had to rewind it because I didn't understand how he figured out that it was a lie. So I had to rewind, watch the episode again. And I'm like, oh, it was the laying on the lap where she said something different. I was like, oh, snap.
Yeah, because he'd mentioned that there were little subtle differences and that he had to go back.
I didn't hear it, so I had to rewind it and hear it. And I was like, oh, that's
100%, Steve, why I think that this show deserves a rewatch. Like, it's just, there's just those people that can take every single nuance of a show and just remember it. I don't have that. Like, I have to write notes and shit just to remember a lot of these things a lot of time, or just do multiple viewings. This one, it doesn't feel like it's work to me, though. Like, I want to go back and I want to start seeing all the little things that I missed. And just on top of that, I just love the story. I love the way it's presented. So, yeah, for sure, man. If anybody is going to rewatch something, I think this is definitely one thing to rewatch.
Yeah, but like Johnny said, this departure from them having the V in their veins is huge because that was what made the boys the boys. Like,
right. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, the superheroes would try to attack them, and for a while they didn't realize. They're like, "Oh, let's just take care of these guys." Then all of a sudden they're like, "Wait, my punch normally like takes people's heads off. Why is he not affected?" And slowly, that's how their name kind of gets around, being like, "These guys can just come in and kill superheroes." Which was unheard of.
They make it look easy in the book.
Make it look easy, exactly. They know how to kill superheroes. And I think if they depart from it, in my opinion, let me change that. Eric Kripke is killing it, so maybe he can depart from it and without any situation. But I don't think they're going to. I think they're going to give them the compound, and then you're going to see them now when all of them can already fight. Seeing them on the next level is going to be crazy. They're like, oh, these guys are now close to unstoppable. Close. Because they're still in the comic book. They're still not a problem for Homelander. These guys are not a problem.
For those that don't know, Compound V is handled differently from television to comic. In the comic, it is something that the soups don't necessarily need. There's also a lighter dose of this Compound V that floats around, and it's used to sustain energy, basically. It's used to recover from certain sexual antics, of the teenage kicks. It's like a lighter dose of Compound V that's mixed with cocaine. I think they call it blue, if I'm not mistaken. So do you think in the comic, the soups are actually bred in labs, essentially? And I'm getting from the television show that they are selected. I don't know if they're even volunteered. I get the feeling with Starlight's case, they're volunteered for this money. Compound V injection that makes them a soup. So if you take someone like, say, A-Train, does A-Train have... Do you think he was created and injected as a baby, but he's just got like a substance abuse problem?
Yeah.
So he wants like double. Is it double that he's getting, you think, if it's just compound V? Because they never said that it was a blue, like almost like a steroid type of thing, like they're making it out to be.
Yeah, it's like a boost. It's like taking more just enhances him even more. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Right.
It's like it's sort of the way they're created in the first place as infants. You can take more on top to amp up even more, but that'll only last for a certain amount of time. That's what I took from it.
That's what I got from it too. And
do you think that's a nod? Sorry, Steve, I'm just curious. Do you think that that's essentially a nod to the blue? Like they're not going to show. I cannot see them doing the Teenage Kicks sex scene with the prostitutes in the show.
No.
So I'm wondering if that's what they're sort of alluding to. Like that's what they're throwing us a nod. Like this is the blue.
Yeah, I think they've sort of combined it into the one thing.
The reason I asked that question, I know it was all over the place, but that makes me wonder if they do decide to incorporate that in the next season. How do you think they're going to handle that? Do you think it's going to be like a compound V situation where they're injected and now they're fully on it? Or do you think it's going to, and they're now with powers? Or do you think it's going to be the injections of blue for short-term battles?
Well, I think they said in the show that they struggle to use it on adults. But the way that they've treated the female, she was an adult when they've given it to her, right?
Right.
Well, remember they said they kept her because she was one of the ones that made it. They're like, we kept her because it worked on her for some reason. So we kept her wrapped up.
Yeah. So I guess a lot of people it won't work on.
She was an anomaly.
Yeah, so if that's the case then, and then I doubt very much that the boys, as it were, the team, are going to be jacking themselves up with anything because chances are it'll kill them.
True. Or they're going to look at her and be like, if it worked on her, I wonder if it's going to work on one of us. Or maybe a certain compound. Because like in my brain, the reason that we should have known that something was a lie was because we saw how the things were created. And the way that someone said a baby was born, they're like, oh, that's not how it's created though. They don't just have the blood in them, then they come out blazing out of their mom. That's not the truth. And I didn't catch it at first. I'm like, oh, they have IV. So automatically I'm like, oh, this whole thing isn't. I should have been like, this whole thing isn't real. But when I saw the IVs going into the baby, remember, they took that vial from the actual lab. I think those are the vials they're going to be using. And I think that they're going to try to go back to that lab and actually get it from the source and put it into their vein. Like for Butcher's going to do it, in my opinion. If anyone in the boys are going to try it and risk death, it will be him. Because he was like, look, there's only one way I could beat this person. But Johnny's right. If it's never worked on people, the chances of it working on all 5 of them and none of them dying is slim to none.
Personally, I think it kind of weakens the group a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
I mean, it definitely weakens the group if you're just talking about, physically.
Yeah.
But I'm saying from comic to television show, I think it takes something away, particularly in Huey's case.
But then again, it adds so much more threat and so much more jeopardy.
Yeah, that's true.
One of the things I really liked about it was in the early episodes where they've got somebody in a cage.
Uh-huh.
And they're having to shield that situation from being detected because as soon as they're detected, that's it, game over. And the sense of threat, that the power difference, do you know what I mean? From like regular people to these superpowered people, that sheer sort of gulf in power makes it so much more frightening.
Yeah, it raises the stakes up a bit.
Yeah, so much that you really think, shit, they're really in a bad situation,
That's very true.
You got a point, man.
One of the things that struck me in the books was that it, like I said, they made it seem like kind of a joke. It was like, oh, you think we're just regular people? Well, we're not, and we're going to kill you. And they do quite easily. In the book, the boys almost seemed overpowered. They just like steam through, anyone that got in their way.
That's true.
Whereas now, they're without that advantage or even leveling the playing field, it creates a lot more tension and a lot more threat. The Homelander's a lot more frightening because he's a lot more powerful in relation to the protagonist. Do you know what I mean?
The boys sort of come together more like a team of specialized skills now.
Yeah, they're really up against it. They've got to be smarter. You know, they can't just go in and just physically attack. They've got to be smarter. They have to find other ways around. And I think from a storytelling point of view, that has got more potential.
I think it'll be, unless they do the thing where, like in the book, they had a bunch of different lower level groups that they ran through. But the higher the groups went, the harder it was for them to do it. Because they're like, okay, the better the groups are, the better at fighting because they ran through these little like no problem group of super fighters, right? But as they got higher and higher, it's like, oh, we have to, like they were getting hurt, like legitimately hurt. Like we can't really do anything tomorrow because we're hurt. Because they're like, the better the superhero, though, even if you had Compound V, these superheroes are used to having super strength and they know what to do with it. So if they start being like, okay, let's inject them and they'll run through these lower levels. But as it gets higher, you just can't do that. They're just really good at what they do. And they've had it in their bones for how many years? Because look at Adrian. Like for Adrian, he had the Compound V, but he started slowing down. Even he started slowing down because he's like, what did he say? 26 or 27? He's like, I can't run like I used to. So age still affects them. As they get older, it still affects them. So maybe it's like there's something to this. Oh, the longer it's in your bone or some weird, you can't just inject it and know how to use these powers. But if they do go and say, forget it, we're not going to give them the power, I would be shocked. Especially for what they're doing is they're saying, we know a lot of you guys have read the comics, but we don't care. We're going to take it another direction. But for the people who haven't read the comics, I think them injecting the compound would be so cool to them. They'd be like, oh my God, this is awesome. Yeah. I think they would just blow their minds. And I just don't see them not. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't do it till the end of season 2, though. Or season 3.
But it needs to be done at some point. At least one of them. They have to at least touch on it.
It's going to be the Butcher. It's going to be well, you know what? It might be Huey.
I'm thinking it's going to be Huey. I would really like to see that, man.
It might be Huey, where it's just like, it's not working on me, fellas. And because we saw he had anger issues. And what if he has it? He starts punching walls and his hand like goes through the wall. And they're like, it worked. Because we saw him punching a brick wall.
Yeah.
That wasn't for nothing. That was really random, too.
And like the comic, it does show him in his head saying what he wants to say to people, but then he doesn't do that. He doesn't act on that kind of thing.
Oh, dude.
That would be pretty great.
Because you can't afford to lose Butcher. If it kills someone, he's the last person in the group you want it to kill. So Huey would.
I'm going to get really happy okay, let's talk season 2. So predictions. I have one that kind of leads me from where you're coming from. What if we get the Legend in season 2?
I don't think we will.
He has a lot of info.
Yes, that's the thing. We need to have him.
But if we have him, he's got to be very different because he was basically a Stan Lee piss take.
Oh, you're right.
So he can't look like that.
He can't look like anything like
because
that.
Because he was supposed to be Stan Lee, right? So
I would love Jackie Earl Haley to play Legend.
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah, that would be great. Well, he said previous as well that he was in Preacher, so they know him.
Oh, that would be so good, dude. He would be so good. And
yeah, it would be good. I think they'd have to de-stan him, though, you know?
Oh, no, out of respect. Yeah. Now, out of curiosity, do y'all think that the last scene was a real scene or was it an out-of-body experience scene?
I think it was real. I think they're taking it in another direction.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've just added something to the story that they technically could use a whole season of that. You know what I mean? They can make a whole season out of that now.
Well, see, here's my problem then. All right, spoilers for the next 2 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. 3, 2, 1. So my issue is, if the Compound V, the kids aren't born this way, right?
Right.
Apparently they are, because she had to give birth to another Homelander.
Maybe that's the outcome of Soups breeding with normal humans.
Yeah. True, but they didn't know. So that's what I'm saying. So apparently it is possible, because they were saying like, oh, it would kill the mother.
Yeah, as they sort of fictitiously said it did.
Yes. And so they're like, it would, but it didn't. She was just in hiding. So I'm just surprised that how are they going to explain how Soups never bred with a person?
They were just really, really careful. Super
This just makes no sense. It makes zero. I was like, wait, what?
Well, you know what, though, Steve? That's why these people are making these shows, and we're sitting here talking about them right now.
That's true. I can't wait for them to say, oh, this is why no one's ever tried to, or maybe they had some sort of rule that they had to be aborted. If you did, because they have these sex parties, someone's going to get pregnant. Interesting. All right, 2 minutes done.
All right, cool. Fair enough.
It was like, that doesn't make any sense for me. Someone would have done something. This opens up a brand new group of possibilities. And it also made Homelander look even more insidious when he was like, I squeezed a person until they told me the truth. You know what he meant by that. He literally squeezed somebody. And I'm like, oh my God. He has no end, bro.
No, it gives him pleasure to squeeze somebody, particularly when he's stepping on their head.
Dude, he's just a monster. And now I want to know, even though Billy's going to be upset, it's still a connection that now both he and Homelander have. Oh, it's going to be good, dude.
Plus, they're Eskimo brothers.
Dude, that's gross. Okay, here's a question. Do y'all think it was willing Eskimo brothers? If you know what I mean?
I think they're two separate occasions, if that's what you're getting at. I don't think they London bridged her.
No, I'm saying, do you think... Oh, that's gross. I'm saying, do you think that it was a consensual thing with Homelander?
Johnny knows where I'm coming from.
Do you think it was a consensual thing with Homelander? Or do you think it happened the unfortunate way?
Well, if you go back to the footage that they showed him, remember they showed Butcher some footage of his wife entering the hotel room with Homelander, then coming back out 3 hours later, and she's putting on her high heel and stuff. So it looks to me, and he did say that, I forgot what it was, but it's like, women just like me because I'm Homelander is essentially what it came out to. What are you going to do? They throw themselves at me.
Yeah, but it is Homelander. You know what I'm saying? It is Homelander. So who knows what he did?
But she didn't really, this is just my opinion, of course. She didn't look necessarily disturbed when she came out of that room. Now, maybe she's just got amazing composure, and she knew she had to go out in public, so she composed herself. But that's really digging into what we saw right there. To me, it kind of seems like she just walked out. There's no telling that they actually had sex in that room or not. But if we're going off of what we've seen, personally, I think that she was okay with it. She was consenting.
Oh, I can't wait to hear the story, because I know they're going to be like a switcheroo. I know it. They're going to be like, what happened in that room was this.
Yeah, but it also doesn't necessarily explain why she walked out at the very end.
Well, I mean, I think she was walking to someone who's like, we got to take you away.
She pulled a Billy Batson's mom, and she just bounces out, and she's gone without any type of notice or anything for a very long time.
Well, yeah, but because they're like, you are carrying something that you cannot be in society with. So we have to put you in witness protection.
That's true.
That's who I think she was walking to, where they're like, hey, you have to come with us. Because if you stay here, it was almost for her own good, dude. Because who knows what that monster would have done?
I don't think we're supposed to know just yet. But if we're making predictions, honestly, I don't know, man. It's the boys. It could really go either way. But I'm thinking she's aware. Like she was willing is what I'm trying to say.
I'm thinking she was coerced. Something happened where she was coerced to do this thing. She grinned and bared it. Because I don't think they'd make it that simple that she this happened, such is life, and now she's...
They could have paid her off, man. You think about it. If they're charging $300 million a year, no, for 3 months, was it? $300 million for 3 months to have a soup in your city. Now they're farming. Because now,
totally true.
Technically, according to the television show, this could be one of the first hybrids that we know of, at least.
Totally.
So if you're getting 300 mil, now you got a hybrid, maybe you're getting more.
But then the thing is, if you get a bunch of money and then you have to go to witness protection, you can't even spend the money. Homelander's everywhere. She has to stay quiet. So I think what happened was, I don't think it legitimate, now mind you, they might do a switcheroo. It legit looks like she loved her husband. However, she did say, take it easy on the sauce. So how good was their relationship really? We don't know what kind of husband Billy was, but it was enough for her to be like, I kind of need you on your best behavior today. So maybe he was pushing her away a little bit. And Homelander is that guy that seems like all American. You know what I'm saying? The opposite of Billy or the opposite of Butcher. You know what I'm saying? So, but in my opinion, it seemed like she genuinely loved him. And I don't think it's as simple as a normal soap opera.
No, you know what, Steve? Honestly, if I'm being real with you, I think I'm just giving like an opposing opinion just for the sake of the conversation. But in truth, you're probably right. Because there's so much more backstory that they have to provide. We know that terror exists. We didn't see terror but one time, but we saw the dog toys and everything like that. So there's still a lot of their backstory that they have to tell. I was really hoping that when she walked out of that room or out of that house, that you're going to see terror at her feet.
Oh,
that would have been amazing.
But something happened to Terror.
Yes.
Do you think they're going to show, because we know what happens in the book. Do you think they're just going to have it in a different timeline? Well, not only did this happen, but they did this to him too.
I don't know, but I just think that they wouldn't put terror in. They would not show that. Yes, I get it. Easter egg and some fan service. I don't think that they would have included the dog toys and that scene of terror, where even though it was like 2 seconds long, they don't do that for a reason. Terror is a big part of the comic.
Dan.
Yo.
It's my favorite show of the year. It's over. The more I talk about this, I'm like, dude, this is one season. And we have this much to say. It's not close.
Should we give our rating? Are we about wrapped up with what we...
Oh, dude, I don't want to go overboard, Dan.
Breathe a little bit, man. It's good for you.
There were problems. There were unanswered questions. You had issues. Hold on. I'm going to go overboard. Yep. It's over. I'm going to go overboard. Oh, but I do, real quick before we do that, can I offer a question?
Absolutely.
Dream casting. For as many characters as you can dream cast in your brain and can remember offhand, who would be your dream cast? Even though this cast is wonderful. Bucks, who is your dream cast for the boys? Dream cast.
I suck at this so bad.
Well, the main one would be Simon Pegg as Huey.
Oh, goodness. That was an obvious one. I didn't
But it was good to have him in the show as a nod.
It was good to have him in the show. I still don't know why they couldn't have still used him, to be honest.
You know what? You're right. He looks great.
He does look great.
He looks fantastic. And he's like, he would be such a bumbling, like, I'm too old to do this.
Yeah, he could be in exactly the same situation at the age that he is now.
Totally right, dude.
So that's what I would have liked, and for him to be Scottish, and so we get to have the bit where, you know, from the books where he goes back to Scotland and all that sort of stuff. That would have been lovely.
Yeah, I'm thinking that was budget stuff right there. We can eliminate Scotland. Now we don't have to do any on location stuff. We keep it all in America.
I think the budget stuff was just him, Simon Pegg. To have him in every episode.
Yeah, I think he's just too busy.
He's too big, dude. He's in Mission Freaking Impossible. You can't have him like, we have you locked down for 8 episodes. But like, geez, dude.
But what I'm saying is they could have had another Scott in the role. Yes, it would be awesome if they had Simon Pegg in it, because that's, you know, we know why, of course. But they could have put another Scottish guy in there and they still would have that issue of having to go back. So to me, it just seems like it's a budget thing, completely all the way around a budget thing.
Well, since it doesn't happen till 3 seasons, like way in the further comics, and Amazon, they don't even know what budget problems are.
They're like, what's that?
Yeah, what is a budget? We make $1 billion a freaking every 6 months. They're willing to put in, remember, they're trying to make their own Lord of the Rings, which is not called Lord of the Rings. But they're like, yeah, we're putting that much money in to every episode. So I just think that they really, in my opinion, that Quaid is what got him that job.
I like Jack Quaid. I'm really starting to enjoy him as an actor. I loved him in Plus One, man.
He's great.
Plus One was fantastic.
I thought he was the weak link in the cast.
Fair enough. I mean, I could see that everyone's going to have someone that they pick as the weak link, of course. But I think he did a really good job. I liked him.
I'm sorry, John. What was the rest of your picks? Do you have anybody else that you would switch out?
I would have quite liked Ray Stevenson as Butcher. He was the guy in Punisher Warzone. He was the Punisher in the 2008 movie.
Oh, he would have been a great Butcher.
Yeah, he's a proper Londoner as well, so we wouldn't have had the accent problems.
The picture that I'm looking at on IMDb, like, he could totally be Butcher. That's crazy.
Yeah, he's massive as well. He's a big guy.
What's that one dude that plays all the villains, and he's like big into soccer?
Oh, not Vinnie Jones.
Yes, you don't think Vinnie Jones would have been a good? Why not?
He's not good. Oh no, I'm the Juggernaut, bitch.
Oh yeah.
As
God.
Butcher,
Do you
though.
remember
I'm
that?
saying as
He's
Butcher.
a bit too blocky. I think.
He's not got the chops, man. He's not got
Yeah.
the acting chops, man. The guy,
I
That's what I'm
love
getting
Vinny
at.
Jones, man. I love Vinny.
yeah, the guy's more wooden than something big and full of wood. He's terrible.
And you don't think, what about, and Statham's out of the question.
Yeah, he's
Jason
too
Statham,
little.
isn't he like 3 feet high?
Yeah, he is. I saw him in London one time with.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, just at the railway station at Charing Cross Station. Yeah, when he was dating Kelly Brook, who's a stunning, gorgeous woman.
He is.
And she was towering over him. The guy's like 3 feet high.
And
That's why he looks. That's why he looks so bulky, because he's tiny little
I did
man.
not know that.
I'm compact, mate.
Next time you see him, and you have a fucking good look at him, his head in relation to his body, you can tell he's a little dude.
Hey, come over here and take a fucking look at me. Look at me head. Look how big my head is in comparison to me body.
Yeah, I'll fucking kick your head off.
Now, do you
You'd
think
be like, you would too.
I'll kick him in the face. No, he's a good. I mean,
It's so fun.
he's he's good at what he does. I love Crank. That's the best thing he's ever done in my book. Have you guys seen Crank?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you, dude. That is the
Crank's
craziest
an
movie.
amazing film. But he's good. He's good. He's a good lad. But he's no Billy Butcher.
You don't think the Hound would have made a good Butcher?
Yeah, he would be
I would
good.
have loved the Hound as the Butcher. What's it? Well, I forgot his name, but he would have been a good. You don't think so, Dan?
I don't know. You know what? Maybe I'm just. I know you want dream casting, but I got to be honest with you. Outside of which I'd never noticed in the first place, the whole accent thing that Johnny's saying, and the fact that he has a beard, I think he did a great fucking job, man. I kind of loved Carl Urban in the role.
Yeah, I did. Apart from the accent, I thought he was fantastic. I'm a huge Carl Urban fan. Like in the Dredd movie, 2012 Dredd movie, he was phenomenal. As a massive Dredd fan, he's great.
Oh, I wanted a sequel so bad.
Oh man, where they went wrong with that film was only releasing it in 3D. It was such a stupid maneuver because so many people don't. There was no 2D print released, not in the UK anyway. It only came out in 3D, and it was beautiful in 3D. But so many people don't like 3D films.
Right.
It cut out 2/3 of the potential audience. It was such a shame because it's such a great movie. But hey, there may be a TV show. There's a TV show in development, so fingers crossed for that.
Randomly, and we're gonna get right back on the topic. I also wanted a sequel to Hardcore Henry, but I never got that. So life is just. I was like, okay, we're not gonna get that. Well, but in my dream cast, there's only one person I switch out. Other than I can't even think of who would do Mother's Milk because Mother Milk is a big fella. We'd have to get a newcomer. But my dream cast would be Armie Hammer as Homelander. I think that he looks like Homelander.
He does have more of that traditional superhero kind of look.
Yes, his big voice. And him being evil would be like, oh, no one would believe what I'm seeing him do right now. Because as soon as he walks out the building, they'll be like, oh, hey, Homelander. He looks so nice because he has that traditional 6'4", clean shaven, deep voice. That's Homelander.
For me now, Anthony Starr is Homelander.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
In my
he
brain,
I mean,
he's
obviously he
Homelander.
really is, but
I think he's incredible.
Yes, if I had not read The Boys and I just watched that, he would still be my favorite character in the show.
Oh,
but
no
he's
question.
just so convincing in that role, man.
He's so good. And then, bruh, I'll just say one phrase. Put those arms to your side and sit down, Missy.
Oh,
That was such a good scene.
Oh my God, dude.
yeah.
I said everyone was like, you might want to do what he said.
Yeah, the whole room got quiet on that part.
Yeah.
The only person that wasn't tripping was Black Noir. He was just looking like, oh, this is going to be interesting.
It's the way he can switch from the smile to
dude.
to from good to evil in a flick.
That blink, because as soon as the eyes went back to him,
amazing.
he's like, okay, now. I was like, oh my God, this guy is a menace.
There's another part he does it really well where he's trying to locate Translucent, and he goes and talks to that assistant Annika.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I don't know if I should be talking to you right now. I should get Madeline Still on the phone. He's like, yeah, but I'm Homelander. She's like, well, I don't know if I should be talking to you. And he's all, what's your name? Annika?
Yeah.
Well, I'm the Homelander, and I can do whatever the fuck I want. He tells her. and then he grabs her hand and he puts
and he
it on
smiles
the mouse.
while he does it. It's
Yep. And
just
he's like, now.
oh my
Please. It was so good.
Here's what scared me so much. Not scared me. This isn't even, I guess, I used the wrong word.
Were you cowering under a blanket, Steve?
It was exactly. So I was intimidated because he's like, they were looking on the TV screen and you saw this thing zip past and then zip past. And he's like, that's Homelander. He's just using his X-ray vision to scour the city. I said, oh my God, that is freaking creepy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he found him, stopped at the van. He's like, hey. I said, oh my. And then he said, do you have a warrant? And Homelander just looked at him and was like, come on, G.
Yeah. Do you really want the answer to this?
Do you really want to play this game today? There's only one person that's not scared of him, and it's Butcher, because he's more mad at him than scared.
He hates him, but he respects his powers.
Exactly. And for the fact that he's like, I love that Homelander was like, I've never witnessed this before. You're not scared of me. I said, oh, this. And I think that is one of the reasons he did what he did at the end. He's like, this human being's not worried about me. I want him around a little bit.
You're a worthy adversary,
exactly. Sir. He's like, this can be fun. And this Eric Kripke, let me tell you something, bro. You're listening. I know you are. You are a genius. You are a freaking genius.
And I'm going to echo your sentiment, Steve. I've thought about it a lot, actually. Now, yes, I'm very pro superhero things. You know, I love Marvel and all of that, but this is not something that I can lump into that category. This is a category all of its own. Yes, it does have elements that remind you of those things, but this is unlike anything else that's out right now. And I think that Amazon is in the process of scaring the shit out of Netflix.
Oof.
I mean, because they are a force to be reckoned with right now, and it's only going to get worse for them.
Picard's come in on Amazon.
Oh, yes. Is that on Amazon? I thought it was on. Oh, you're getting it on Amazon.
Yeah.
You lucky dog. We have to do the CBS All Access. So it's a subscription thing. But Steve, I know a guy. Don't worry. I know a guy.
Okay. But also the big deal is, here's what Amazon is doing so smart that Netflix can't. Netflix does not have something that can say, hey, if you apply for US Mail, you automatically get these streaming shows.
Right. It's a huge advantage, man.
It's a huge advantage. They're like, hey, if you want your packages delivered tomorrow, pay this money, and guess what else you get?
Yeah.
A free streaming service. And you're like, oh.
I think we need you for the commercial, Steve. I almost wanted to go buy Amazon right now.
Dude, it makes total sense. You're like, and Amazon's like, we'll just tie it in because if we lose $300 million on a show, we get that money back tomorrow because we own Whole Foods, we own this, it's over with, dude. Like Netflix is gonna, if they keep on raising their prices, and don't forget, Disney's coming. And Disney owns both the number 1 and number 2 movies, highest grossing movies of all time that they can have exclusively on their streaming site. And I'll even say even younger bucks like Shudder. Shudder is going to start pulling all the horror movies to theirs. And Netflix is going to be like, well, what do we have? We have Netflix originals, and they're not good enough to warrant $11 a month.
No.
Because they're hit and miss. If you get the Disney streaming channel, Amazon Prime, and Shudder, do you really need Netflix? That's a problem. Dan, you hit it now. You hit the nail on the head.
It's an important time right now in media. No, it really is, because there's so many streaming services. I know we've talked about this before, but there's so many streaming services right now that it's going to be those little things like that, Steve, that keep people ahead of the pack. You know what I'm saying? So it's just this really cool time to be alive. I think that we are really kind of already are on the ass end of any kind of disc. Yes, we have 4K disc and things like that. Oh, 4K, remind me about that. But I think that pretty soon we're just going the way of digital streaming. And now's the time where these companies are going to make their mark, and it's going to be only the strong survive. 5 years from now, I think we're going to have a lot more answers of who made it through this. And I do think that Netflix will still be around, but I think it's going to be Netflix, Amazon, and Disney doing whatever, including Hulu, like in that whole mix. That's going to be your 3 biggies right there, and possibly Shudder. I think you got a good point there.
I'm shocked that I shouldn't be. Because the horror movie genre is bigger than people think.
There's a resurgence too.
Yeah, and they said we don't need 4% of the market. We need 0.7. And we're making $40 million a year, $50 million a year in profit. And we're part of a bigger television thing. We don't need to make all this money. And they're genius. They're not trying to become Netflix. But here's what I'll say. Even the little point whatever percent is taking away from Netflix. And right now, Netflix needs every single percentage. Because, man, when Disney comes in, bro, with their streaming service, how many television stations do they own?
Not enough, according to them.
According to them, not enough. But yeah, I'm really looking. The good thing that Seth Rogen and Goldberg did that was really, 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 really smart was they went to a studio that budget isn't a problem. And this looks like a movie every single episode. When he takes off and they do that, poof.
It rivals Man of Steel, in my opinion.
Easily, dude. And how many times does he do it, Dan?
Oh, yeah.
How many times does he do it? A grip.
Yeah, but there's one in particular where he's talking to Frenchie at the van.
Oh, dude.
That was probably my favorite one.
I think my favorite one is when they were getting shot at and he's walking outside the building and they're like, he said, "Where's the shooter?" He's like, 33rd floor.
Yeah.
And he's like,
oh, yeah, that was sick. He crashes through the window and he's like, so like I was saying.
Gee, that is so
She's like, elevator?
Yeah.
Exactly. That is so. Now, another thing that's different in this movie or in the show, the movie, Starlight can't fly.
Yes, I had that in my notes.
Is that weird or no?
Maybe. I mean, we truly don't know if she can or not. I assume
That's
she
true.
can.
No, you're right.
But maybe they just haven't touched on it because that's the first thing I thought when I saw the scene in the park. I'm like, oh, they're not going there.
And they discover that they're each other immediately.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, you're such and such. Oh, you're
Right.
such and such. Whereas it works. Dude, they're firing on every cylinder, bruh. They're like, let's get this bull jive out in the front so that we can move forward.
Yeah, there's so much more to tell. I have one more thought.
Please.
And has anyone seen this in 4K?
Oh, Big Money Dan.
Ah, Charlie Potatoes over there. Check out Charlie Potatoes strolling down Rich Street.
What you want? You want French fries? You want au gratin? What you want?
Look at this
baked.
dude. Damn.
Scalloped.
Check this guy out.
Damn.
I will tell you something, guys. If you do have 4K, and I don't know, this is just my experience, but when I looked on Amazon, I saw only the standard version. If you actually search The Boys 4K, you can find it there. However, I'm going to say something, and I'm going to be super discreet. I'm going to be very vague about this. 4K can be super harsh sometimes when you're watching it.
Cool.
And
Dan.
I'm not. Shut up, Steve. Shut up. Shut up. I'm just saying, I'm going to be real with you. No, I'm serious. There was something that was seen in the 4K that was so harsh, I actually went back to the other version, and it was better. So
okay.
I'm just putting it out there.
Shit got too real.
Yeah, it's just way too real, bro. But I just wanted to point that out to anyone that has 4K, and maybe you haven't noticed this. I hope I haven't ruined it for you, but it was off-putting, to say the least, and I'll just leave it at that. Other than that, does anyone have any final thoughts before we rate?
Well, there was one moment where I realised that before I knew whether you liked the show or not, I knew, Dan, that you loved the show.
Oh my God, dude. I was so mad.
Yes, thank you, John. Thank you for my validation.
And I thought, if Dan isn't in at this point, then he definitely is in now.
Templeman said it himself that Spice Girls are Butcher approved. So,
Dude, that
there you
is
go.
so. I love that he said,
Case closed.
Why do you know so? He's like, why do you know so much about this group?
I loved it. I loved how it was like, what's Baby Spice doing these days?
But when they all come
I
together.
don't know.
He's
Of
like,
course you don't
how-
fucking know.
Amazing.
He's like, how do you know so much about this group?
And he wasn't wrong.
No.
But yeah, I just thought Dan's going to be so happy now.
I loved it, man. I'm telling you, Steve, they're bigger than you think. I'm not saying you have to like them. I'm just saying they're still.
But Mel
they're
B
still
is
out there,
still
man.
a thing. She did not drop off. So I was like, wait a minute, Mel B's making ducats doing like what did she do?
America's Got Talent, right?
So she's doing fine. She's pretty too.
She really is. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Johnny, because it just validates. I know you don't agree with me, John, but it's still.
I just thought Dan's going to be happy, and that made me happy.
I had a big ass grin on my face. And sooner or later, which were things we were talking about off mic, but I'll expand on that a little bit more.
Okay.
Guys, ready to rate?
Let's
Yeah.
do it.
Bucks, what do you give The Boys on Amazon?
What unit of measurement am I going to choose?
I love that you play along.
I'm going to give it 4 laser babies out of 5.
I like that.
Nice.
How about you, Steve?
I'm going to give this 4 crowbars out of 5.
You know what? I'm going to go ahead and give this one 4 out of 5 vials of Compound V. I know that's a little boring, but trust me, the other ones in my head are a lot better, but I'm trying to keep the listeners.
Perfect.
I agree with you. I think that this is for me, the best show that I've seen this year. I don't know what's going to top it, but I welcome it because if it can top this, it's going to be freaking awesome. But The Boys for me is a winner, and I got a feeling, folks, that you will be hearing us talking about this more as time goes on.
All right, fellas, I got to get out of here, but I love Johnny. Love you, Dan. People, I hope you enjoy The Boys. Go check it out. I love y'all. Can't wait till the next time I talk to y'all. Your boy is out. Peace.
Before we go, Johnny, where can these people get a hold of you?
You can catch me on Facebook. You can catch me at groovzooband.com and majestic-12.uk. And hopefully I'll be popping up on the airwaves again soon.
Oh, I have a feeling that's definitely going to happen, which we're not going to say much about that. But guys, these little breaks we take sometimes produce a very fantastic idea. And we'll talk about that more. I just want to say, John, thank you so much for coming on, man. You know, you're a true friend to us. We love having you on anytime. So you're welcome any single time you want to come on.
Thank you so much, man. I'm such a huge fan of you guys. And it's an absolute honor to be asked to be on the show. So it's always great chatting with you and Steve. So yeah, thanks a lot, man. Thanks for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of the show. My name is Dan Ramirez. For Steve Hudson and Johnny Bucks, we are the Heroes of Noise. I'm going to be talking about something real quick. We have a giveaway coming up that's boys related, and more on that later. Ladies and gentlemen, be good to yourselves. Be good to the people around you. Peace.